All right, and we're back. We're going to talk about buyer agency. Let's talk about it. Charles, go for it.
So yeah, like what do people, basically like, how do you ask for buyer agency? How does your conversation go? So you're at a house or wherever it is, kind of how you walk through that process. Do you get agency before you show them a house? Do you get agency after showing a house? Kind of how does everybody do it?
Let me preface something real quick. And you know how big I am on language, right? Let's not start it off talking about asking for buyer agency. We're getting buyer agency. And I know that sounds like bullshit, but if you fix your mind in that place that you're asking for something, it makes it a whole lot harder to get than if you're just going through the process. So I'm just very intentional with the language, and that's why I wanted to go there. So let's keep going. Tiffany, Felicia, Janine, thoughts on his question?
So after I think that the most important thing that I've learned from Doug is get in front of the client. So take the opportunity, meet them, show them the house. Then if they're really interested, okay. If they're really interested, obviously sit down, have a buyer consult. That's when I do it. That's when I get agency. I mean, right there at the buyer consult, have a conversation, figure out their situation, figure out the urgency. I said, okay, if you love this house and you want to make an offer, we have to do these things first before we can make an offer on the table. And then I walk them through that, and it's never been an issue for me. You know, obviously you find out if they're working with another agent first. And then of course I'll start with the working with real estate, then do the agency. And I say, hey, I usually make this for 6 months because if a situation happens and we don't find a house, we still have more time to work together to make this happen for you. And it's usually not a problem. It hasn't been for me yet. And then I said, once I have this, then we can move on to making an offer and going from there. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember learning in school that all of those papers being dated all on the same day is usually not ideal, but that's not real world real estate. So, you know, that's how it's been it hasn't been. And, you know, I had one client that was already under agency with somebody. And before I worked with her, I had to get documentation for her to terminate it, obviously. And then.
That's crazy that worked out.
I know, right?
I don't know. Charles, to answer your question about like if you get it before you show the house, I typically do not because I don't want to come across as pushy. That's just my personality. I know there's a lot of agents that require you to have agency. I lost a client that way because, yeah. But anyway, long story short, I don't work that way. I want to meet them first because I also want to make sure that I want to work with them. Right. Like if I meet them and we don't vibe, then I mean, I'll hand them off to somebody else in the office. I've only met maybe like one person that I really didn't want to work with, but so I just want to make sure that we get along. And then what I usually do is what Doug kind of says, you know, once you go and you see the house, if they want to make an offer, then it's obviously the obvious next step. Right. I don't even, I mean, it is what it is. We're going to sign agency, then I'm going to submit the offer for you, and you guys kind of explain it that way. But if it's somebody where we didn't find what we were looking for, then usually I'll say, okay, that's great. You know, we talked about buyer agency. I'm going to email that to you tonight. That way you can sign it before we go out and look at houses again. I just have to have that signed. I mean, bam. Oh, I'm like, you're shaking your head. No, I'm like, what'd I say?
No, see, it's not even a question. It's just, this is what's next. Bam, throw it at them. And here's the thing, though. I like the way, and this is important, again, using the language. You know, when you're explaining them to it, or explaining it to them, like, hey, it's important that we feel like we're going to work well together, right? So I never ask anybody to sign this before I show them the house for the first time. A lot of agents do that. Here's a copy of it. Show them the house. Man, I think we're going to work great together. Mm-hmm. Sorry, we're going to work great together. I'm going to send you exactly what you said. I'm going to send you that. And just do it.
Yeah, that's how I approach every situation. Just about.
Make it be not, and then you told me that. You said, obviously it's a 6-page document. You're not going to read through every word of it with them, but you just kind of say the highlights, important things. Mm-hmm. This is saying that, you know, my job is to work for you, you know, in a nutshell, kind of say what it is and what you're giving them and what they're giving you in return.
100%. Felicia, what you got?
She muted?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm driving. I had to grab my phone. No, I think like everything they're saying is good. Back to Janine's point, like sometimes you don't you don't have a buyer consult in a perfect world, yes, I love it when I do because I feel like I get a chance to explain things better and, you know, people can understand. But most of the time you're meeting them right at a house. You're just going straight to a house to meet them. And I'm the same as Tiffany. I don't ask for it the first showing. I kind of just gauge the situation and, you know, just get a feel for them and how it's going to be working together. But you definitely, by the second showing, you definitely want to make sure that you get that. I've had sometimes they're super skeptical of real estate agents, and I haven't gotten agency until we write an offer. But in the law, like, I just thought it would pan out that way and it would work out best that way. And it did. I mean, there's a million ways it could have went wrong, but I feel like that was just one of those situations where I had to wait and fill it out, and I didn't want to scare them off. So I
And
think
every situation is going to be unique, and you have to have a feel for that. But be careful. I have been burned because I have been too nice with that. And that is a tip to invest a lot of time with someone and let that do it. But you know what? I don't blame them. I blame myself for not setting the expectation the right way. Okay? And then following through on it. And that needs to be your mindset too. You set the expectation.
I mean, a lot of the clients that I've been working with are flying in from out of state, driving 4 hours to come see me. So I know that my opportunities to get in front of them are very few and far between. So I want to make the best of the one chance that I have and build that relationship first.
Yeah.
And then if they're specifically coming in and they're urgent about, like Felicia said, every situation's different. If they're urgent about making an offer, obviously that's the obvious choice. But, you know, I don't want them to come and then us meet and then a month later, fly back home and be like, exactly, fly back home and then.
Well, I think that you're in a really good position because somebody who's willing to fly in already trusts meeting with you and making this happen. They're a prime candidate to get agency right away because they're obviously investing a lot of time, money, and effort into making this happen. The hard ones are the people who already live in town, right, Charles? And you're like, I know I can see them anytime. They can send me a request any day. We could go see a house in any 30-minute time frame probably. Those are the ones that are hard, and it's, you know, and they make it hard because they're like, we're right here. I mean, why do we need to do this? I can see you anytime. That's more difficult.
I feel like it'd be more difficult with SOI too.
That's where you got to take the extra step to, well, if they're that accessible, then we need to sit down and really make sure they understand the process and how this is going to play out for us to work together. And then it comes back to something we've talked about before, Charles. We talked about it yesterday. Nate got this from the very beginning. And I think it's kind of his background. It's just about, well, look, we're making a commitment to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you want to buy something now or next year, I'm here working for you. But if you want me to do that, you got to commit to me too. It's a two-way street. So, and it's not anything wrong that you're asking for. It's just a very reasonable thing to ask for. Hey, I'm here. I got your back. I understand that you're not ready yet. How many other people would be willing to stick with you for the next 6 months?
Yeah.
I am. Sign here.
Right.
Yeah, I've gotten pushback before and people saying, well, why do I need that? And I just tell them, honestly, well, no, I mean, I'm just honest with some people. And I say, listen, I don't think that you're like this, but I've worked with other clients in the past when I was new in the business, and I went, you know, and I got childcare for my 3 kids, and I met them and took hours out of my day away from my family. And if they end up purchasing a house with somebody else, I just wasted all of that time with them away from my family to somebody who wasn't committed to me. So if I'm going to commit to you, I will 100% get a babysitter for my kids, and I'll go on a Sunday and I'll show you houses all day long. But I'm only going to do that if you're willing to commit to me as well, because it's only fair. And I think when I, tug at my heartstrings, like I'll go away from my family for you, but you have to commit to me.
It's fair. I love that. It's fair.
Yeah.
Charles, you just have to substitute Maggie instead of
Your dog. I'll get a dog sitter.
just say Maggie. Don't say it's a dog. Just say I'm not going to be with Maggie today. You know, whatever.
Yeah,
Doesn't
right.
matter. But it's still time away from your personal time. You know,
Right.
commitment to other things in your life. So if I'm making this commitment to you, I need your commitment to me. I want to give you my commitment. But it goes both ways. And you can always do, now remember, buyer agency is also a very strong test close. If they're really scared off about that, how willing are they really are interested in buying a house?
True.
Right.
Yeah.
All of the steps in the 12 steps of the home buying process are a test close, right? Of course, they'll do number one and meet with you because they want to see a house, because they like looking at houses, because they like HGTV. Man, I'd be a great real estate agent. I love to look at houses. That's all you have to do, right? What's step two? Oh, I got to get approved? Well, yeah, if you want to keep looking at houses. Test close,
Bye.
right?
Right.
Buyer agency test close, right? You know, that's everything. They're like micro transactions.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not willing to do the little ones, they're never going to pull the trigger on the big one.
That's right.
And also, you can offer an alternative. Okay, I understand. Our standard is 6 months, but given your time frame, we don't need to sign it for 6 months, so we can do it for 3.
That's what my SOI said that. There was pushback. Yep.
Or if you're hesitant before we go out again, we'll sign buyer agency for a week. If you're not happy with the way this is going after a week, I won't ask you to re-sign it, but you're gonna be. You know,
Right.
if we're gonna take such good care of you, why would you want to work with anybody else?
Right.
Let's go see some houses. You know what I'm saying? And have fun with it too. You know, it is business-like. It doesn't always have to feel business-like. So mix it up like that. Disarm people. Not in a bad way, but just to lighten the tension. People hate signing shit.
Right.
People hate it, right? You like to sign stuff? No. Especially stuff you haven't read. Especially stuff that says like North Carolina Real Estate Commission or something on it. No. Nobody likes signing government documents. So you got to make it. This is the same thing everybody signs.
If you want to buy a house.
That's it. This is just
With an agent.
between me and you, so I can take care of you. And that's what I'm going to do. But I got to have this to do it officially. That's it. Was that helpful, Charles? You think it gives you a couple more arrows in your quiver for
Yeah, definitely.
knocking these people down, line them up and knock them down?
How do you do with like somebody that reaches out to you, says, oh, I think can you show me these rentals? I'm not ready right now, but I'll be ready in a year or whatever. Do you get agency for that? Or do you just show them rental? Huh? What did he say?
I would.
For rentals?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because again, I'm committing to you a year out. You're going to commit to me, especially if I'm going to make $100 and show you 10
Right.
rentals.
Right.
I don't even show rentals. I know it sounds.
Well, she's a
if
friend.
It's a friend.
She's a friend, and she's coming from Okie, and she said, I'm coming into
A
town
friend
this
I would.
week. Can you show me these houses? And I'm like, well, yeah.
That's what I'll do it for. Otherwise, I would set them up with a rental search, get agency. When they identify ones they want to see, help facilitate it with the listing agent. But I mean, a lot of times they're not going to pay if you don't show the property. But I mean, I'd rather have my 5 hours than $100 for showing rentals. to be
Yeah.
honest.
True.
So, I mean, that's going to be a decision you're going to have to make personally. I'm going to encourage that you do the latter and not just go show these properties. But that's also going to be where you are in your career. 6 months, a year from now, you're not even going to sniff them unless it's somebody that
It's
you really
a friend. Yeah.
like,
it's a friend.
yeah, I'll set up the search for you. Let me know if you want to see anything. I'll help make it happen.
That's what I did. I sent up the rental search when I had multiple conversations about buying and la 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 la. She just danced around and she's like, no, only rentals. I said, okay, send her the rental search. And then she reached out and she was like, I'm coming in. Can you show me whatever? And I'm thinking, well, what's on the market now? Ain't gonna be rentable in November.
Well, will always be a back and forth about, building your pipeline and getting them. And that's going to be a personal decision. I'm going to always advise you do what your gut is telling you in a situation like that. If you do insist on working with them, get agency.
Okay.
That, and if it's a friend and you work with them, they could refer you to another friend.
Totally.
And so in that situation, I would.
Yeah.
For personal relationships, yes. For a hometown stranger, probably not.
No,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a friend.
Judgment
Yeah.
call. Maybe their budget's going to be $500,000 in a year.
Exactly.
Never know.
Or their next friend that's deploying and coming home, they'll send you them.
Everything is not, there's not the same answer to everything. That's why we call it best practices and not absolute answers. Yay. What great conversation. You guys just make me smile. I hope that was helpful. Anybody else have anything else to add?
I think next week we should do the conversation on foreclosures.
Foreclosures. Okay.
Those are fun.
I'm going to end this recording.